June 13, 1944, 0845 hours, Villers-Bocage, Normandy, France. SS Hauptsturmführer Michael Wittmann stands in the commander's cupola of Tiger Tank number 007, his experienced eyes scanning the road ahead where British tanks and armored vehicles roll confidently through the morning mist into the village below. In the next 15 minutes, this 30-year-old commander will achieve what military historians will call one of the most spectacular single-tank victories in warfare history, destroying 27 Allied armored vehicles with methodical precision that will make him a legend throughout Germany. His Tiger's 88mm gun will speak 27 times, and 27 times British armor will explode into flames. Wittmann will prove beyond doubt that the Tiger I is the most formidable tank on any battlefield, that German engineering excellence and tactical superiority can overcome numerical disadvantage, that one supremely skilled commander in a superior machine can change the course of battle. Yet at this precise moment of impending triumph, 6,000 kilometers away in Detroit, Michigan, 12 new Sherman tanks roll off the assembly lines at the Detroit Tank Arsenal. By the time Wittmann's gun barrels cool from this morning's work, 3 more Shermans will be completed, painted, fueled, and prepared for shipment to Europe. This is the paradox that will destroy Germany, the mathematical impossibility that no amount of tactical brilliance can overcome, the industrial reality that will render every battlefield victory strategically meaningless. Michael Wittmann doesn't know that the Americans are producing 896 Sherman tanks monthly from this single factory, while all of Germany struggles to produce 34 Tigers from its entire industrial capacity. He doesn't know that across America, 11 major factories are churning out Shermans at rates that would seem impossible to German planners, who celebrate producing 100 tanks monthly as an unachievable dream. He knows gunnery tables and armor penetration data and tactical positioning. He knows that his Tiger's armor is impenetrable to most Allied weapons, that his gun can destroy enemy tanks at 2,000 meters while they must close to 500 meters for any chance of penetrating his armor. He knows courage and skill and the supreme confidence that comes from commanding the finest tank ever built. What Wittmann doesn't know, what no German tank commander truly comprehends in June 1944, is that they are winning every battle while losing the war, that they are demonstrating tactical excellence while facing industrial annihilation, that every Sherman they destroy is replaced by 3 more within 48 hours. The mathematics are simple, brutal, and absolutely decisive. Germany will produce 1,347 Tiger I tanks during the entire war, a production achievement that strains their industrial capacity to breaking point, consuming 300,000 man-hours per tank, requiring resources desperately needed elsewhere. America will produce 49,234 Sherman tanks during the same period, a production miracle that represents only a fraction of their total industrial output, consuming only 10,000 man-hours per tank, using assembly line techniques perfected in Detroit's automobile factories. The ratio is 36.6 Shermans for every Tiger. This isn't a production difference. This is an industrial avalanche, a material tsunami, a mathematical certainty that will drown German tactical excellence beneath waves of adequate American equipment arriving in limitless quantities. The British tanks below Wittmann's position move with the confidence of soldiers who have never faced a Tiger, who believe the propaganda about German industrial collapse, who think that numerical superiority guarantees victory. They are about to receive a devastating education in tactical excellence. Wittmann will destroy them systematically, methodically, with the precision of a master craftsman demonstrating his superiority. But tactical victories have become strategically irrelevant. The Americans aren't trying to build better tanks than the Tiger. They are building sufficient tanks in numbers that make better meaningless. While Wittmann destroys 27 vehicles this morning, American factories will produce 126 replacement tanks, and tomorrow they will produce 126 more, and the day after that, another 126. This is the new mathematics of warfare, where quality multiplied by scarcity loses to adequacy multiplied by overwhelming abundance. Watch as Wittmann gives the order to engage, as his gunner traverses the turret with practiced efficiency, as the 88mm gun speaks its first word of the morning, and a British Cromwell tank explodes 300 meters away. Watch as the Tiger advances into the village, as the gun speaks again and again, as British armor burns and Allied soldiers die, and tactical perfection manifests itself in flame and destruction. Watch this moment of supreme German military achievement, this validation of everything German tank doctrine promised, this proof that superior weapons and superior warriors can overcome numerical odds. And understand that while you watch, while Wittmann writes his name in the annals of tank warfare history, the assembly lines in Detroit continue their mechanical rhythm, and the Sherman production count increases, and the mathematical certainty of Germany's defeat becomes more absolute with each passing hour. They are bringing craftsmanship to an industrial competition, individual excellence to a production race, tactical brilliance to a war that will be won not on battlefields, but in factories. The 15 minutes at Villers-Bocage will make Michael Wittmann a legend. The continuous production at Detroit Tank Arsenal will make legends irrelevant. 15 minutes after Wittmann's first shot, Villers-Bocage burns. 27 Allied armored vehicles sit destroyed or burning along 300 meters of village street, a testament to what one supremely skilled tank commander in a superior machine can achieve when tactics, training, and equipment combine perfectly. British survivors will report that they faced multiple Tigers, that such destruction from a single tank seems impossible, that Wittmann's achievement borders on the supernatural. German propaganda will celebrate this victory for weeks, presenting it as proof that superior German weapons and warriors can overcome Allied numerical advantage, that quality defeats quantity, that the outcome of this war remains undecided. Wittmann will receive the swords to his Knight's Cross with oak leaves, becoming one of only 159 men to receive this high honor during the entire war. He has proven every German assumption about Tiger superiority, validated every claim about tactical excellence, demonstrated that individual skill matters more than numbers. And he has proven something else, something that German commanders refuse to acknowledge, that tactical victories have become strategically irrelevant when the enemy can replace losses faster than you can inflict them, that winning battles means nothing when losing the production war. The Tiger I that Wittmann commands represents the pinnacle of German tank design philosophy, an approach that prioritized individual excellence over production efficiency, quality over quantity, tactical superiority over strategic sustainability. German engineers at Henschel und Sohn in Kassel designed the Tiger to dominate any battlefield encounter, to make individual tank duels one-sided massacres, to provide German crews with such overwhelming advantage that numerical inferiority became acceptable, even irrelevant. The specifications tell the story of this philosophy-made metal: 57 metric tons of perfectly shaped armor, with front glacis plates 100 millimeters thick, angled to deflect most Allied anti-tank rounds, side armor 80 millimeters thick, protecting against flanking shots, rear armor 60 millimeters thick, ensuring protection from all angles. The famous 88mm KWK-36L56 gun, adapted from the legendary anti-aircraft gun that proved equally devastating against ground targets, capable of penetrating 132 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters, able to destroy any Allied tank at ranges where Allied guns couldn't even reach the Tiger, much less penetrate its armor. Zeiss optics providing crystal-clear targeting even at extreme ranges. A spacious crew compartment, allowing 5 men to work efficiently without the cramped conditions that plagued other tanks and reduce crew performance during extended operations. Everything about the Tiger I design emphasized battlefield dominance, the philosophy that a single superior weapon, operated by a skilled crew, was worth 10 inferior enemy machines, that tactical excellence could overcome strategic disadvantage, that German engineering superiority would prevail over Allied industrial capacity. German tank doctrine, developed through years of successful campaigns across Europe from 1939 through 1942, assumed that tactical excellence and technical superiority could overcome numerical disadvantage, that German warriors using superior equipment would naturally defeat less skilled opponents using inferior machines, regardless of the numbers involved. This philosophy worked brilliantly during the early war years, when German tanks crushed Polish, French, and Soviet opposition through combination of superior tactics, better training, adequate numerical strength, and innovative combined arms coordination. The Tiger I, entering production in August 1942, represented the logical extension of this philosophy taken to its ultimate conclusion. Create the ultimate tank, the weapon so superior that numbers become irrelevant, that individual excellence matters more than industrial capacity, that quality defeats quantity every single time. May 1942, Henschel Factory, Kassel, Germany. Klaus Richter stands with other engineers and factory workers watching the first production Tiger I roll from the assembly building, its massive bulk and powerful lines promising battlefield invincibility that will restore German momentum and ensure ultimate victory. The factory director, a party member whose enthusiasm far exceeds his engineering knowledge, but whose political connections ensure his position, addresses the assembled workers and engineers with barely contained excitement that borders on religious fervor. His voice echoes through the massive factory floor as he proclaims the Tiger's destiny to change the war's course, to reverse recent setbacks, to ensure final German victory over the degenerate democracies and barbaric Soviets. The Führer himself has personally ordered 100 Tigers produced monthly, he announces to thunderous applause from workers who don't understand the mathematical impossibility of this target, who believe that German will and determination can overcome any industrial limitation. 100 Tigers monthly would give Germany decisive tank superiority on all fronts, would allow German armored formations to smash through any defensive line the enemy could construct, would render Allied numerical advantage completely meaningless in the face of such overwhelming qualitative superiority. Every Tiger produced represents German industrial excellence, superior Aryan engineering capability, the inevitable triumph of quality and craftsmanship over the degenerate democracy's crude reliance on mass production and quantity. No enemy tank can stand against the Tiger in combat, the director continues, his conviction absolutely unshakable, despite never having commanded a tank, never having studied actual battlefield reports, never having calculated the industrial resources required to achieve the production targets he's announcing. If Germany can produce 100 Tigers monthly, the war will be won within 12 months. Soviet tank armies crushed beneath superior German steel. American and British invasion attempts destroyed on the beaches before they can even establish beachheads. The room erupts in enthusiastic applause, workers proud to contribute to this decisive weapon that will ensure German victory, engineers satisfied that their design brilliance will determine the war's outcome and vindicate years of development work. Klaus Richter doesn't applaud. He stands silent among the cheering workers, his engineering mind running calculations that transform enthusiasm into cold dread. He has reviewed the detailed production requirements, calculated the precise man-hours needed for each component and assembly stage, analyzed the resource allocation necessary to produce 100 Tigers monthly. The mathematics are not just difficult, they are fundamentally impossible given Germany's current industrial capacity and resource constraints. Each Tiger I requires approximately 300,000 man-hours to produce, from initial raw materials processing through final quality control inspection. This figure doesn't even include the additional time needed to produce the highly specialized components, the precision-manufactured, high-quality optical sights that give the Tiger its legendary accuracy, the meticulously precision-engineered transmission and engine that must handle the immense weight and power requirements. The Tiger's overlapping road wheel suspension system, brilliantly designed to distribute the tank's massive 57-ton weight across a wider surface area, requires machining precision far beyond standard German manufacturing capabilities, demanding specialized equipment and highly skilled workers who are increasingly being drafted into Wehrmacht formations to replace casualties. The 88mm main gun must be manufactured to tolerances measured in tiny fractions of millimeters to ensure pinpoint accuracy at 2,000-meter ranges that give German crews their decisive advantage. The armor plates themselves must be rolled to precise thickness specifications, shaped using specialized hydraulic presses, and welded using advanced techniques that prevent stress fractures and maintain hardness values that can stop Allied anti-tank rounds. 100 Tigers monthly means 30 million man-hours of production capacity dedicated solely to this single tank model every single month without fail. It means completely redirecting Germany's entire existing tank production capacity away from the Panzer IV medium tanks and assault guns that Wehrmacht armored and infantry formations desperately need to replace combat losses. It means abandoning production of other critical armored vehicles to focus exclusively on the Tiger. Richter's careful calculations, reviewed multiple times to ensure accuracy, show that Germany's maximum theoretically achievable Tiger production capacity, assuming absolutely perfect conditions and genuinely unlimited access to resources, might possibly reach 60 to 70 tanks monthly at absolute peak efficiency. And conditions are catastrophically far from perfect, growing worse with each passing month as Allied bombing intensifies and resource access contracts. Allied bomber raids are increasing dramatically in both frequency and accuracy, systematically targeting the Ruhr industrial region, where the overwhelming majority of Germany's steel production capacity concentrates in a relatively small geographic area. Raw material shortages are becoming increasingly acute and impossible to resolve as Germany's military control contracts and access to foreign resources diminishes. Skilled workers who possess the specialized knowledge needed for precision Tiger component manufacturing are being systematically drafted into Wehrmacht infantry formations to replace the horrific casualties accumulating on the Eastern Front, leaving factories desperately short of the expertise needed to maintain production quality and efficiency. The factories themselves face increasing electrical power interruptions as Allied strategic bombers specifically target power generation facilities and electrical distribution networks, causing production delays that compound existing problems. Richter has meticulously calculated that realistic, achievable Tiger production under actual current conditions might reach 40 to 50 tanks monthly during optimal periods, perhaps climbing to 60 units during exceptionally favorable months when everything works perfectly. He has presented these carefully documented calculations to his immediate supervisors, providing detailed breakdowns of every assumption and constraint, demonstrating with mathematical precision why the Führer's target cannot possibly be achieved. His supervisors dismissed the analysis immediately as dangerous defeatist thinking, as an unacceptable failure to embrace the revolutionary, National Socialist spirit necessary for final victory, as a lack of faith in German capability and determination. The Führer has personally ordered 100 tanks produced monthly, and therefore 100 tanks monthly will be produced, regardless of what bourgeois mathematics and outdated engineering limitations suggest, because German will and iron determination always overcome material limitations and defeatist calculations. Richter understands with terrible clarity that he is watching the complete triumph of ideology over engineering reality. Blind optimism over careful analysis. Overwhelming political pressure over honest industrial assessment. He watches the first production Tiger roll majestically past the cheering crowd, this magnificent and powerful machine that represents the absolute pinnacle of German armored vehicle design. And he understands that it is ultimately irrelevant to the war's outcome, because while German workers celebrate producing their first Tiger with dreams of building 100 monthly, across the Atlantic Ocean, in a nation that understands modern industrial warfare better than any country in human history, assembly lines are already preparing to produce adequate tanks in numbers so overwhelming that German tactical excellence will become strategically meaningless, that individual Tiger superiority will be drowned beneath tsunami waves of sufficient American equipment, arriving in quantities that make quality comparisons irrelevant. The applause continues. Richter remains silent, already mourning a war that Germany has lost, in the factories even as it continues winning on the battlefields. Detroit, Michigan, United States of America, May 1942. While Klaus Richter watches Germany celebrate producing its first Tiger I tank with completely unrealistic plans to manufacture 100 monthly, American engineers at the massive Detroit tank arsenal are methodically solving a fundamentally different problem: how to design and mass-produce adequate tanks in numbers so overwhelming that they ensure absolute material superiority regardless of individual equipment quality or tactical performance in single combat. The American approach to tank design philosophy differs fundamentally and completely from German thinking at every conceivable level, deliberately prioritizing production speed and manufacturing efficiency over individual tank excellence, maintenance simplicity, and field repairability over technical sophistication and complexity, strategic quantity and sustainable logistics over tactical quality and battlefield superiority in individual encounters. The M4 Sherman medium tank, entering full-scale mass production in February 1942 across multiple American factories simultaneously, embodies this pragmatic industrial philosophy completely and without compromise. It represents American industrial engineering brilliance operating at its most ruthlessly pragmatic and efficient. A weapon system designed not to win individual duels against superior enemy tanks, but rather to arrive in such overwhelmingly massive numbers that individual duels become statistically irrelevant to campaign outcomes, that tactical defeats in specific encounters become strategically meaningless when replacements arrive faster than losses can be inflicted. The contrast with German tank design philosophy couldn't possibly be more stark or more consequential. Where German engineers built an absolute masterpiece of armored vehicle design, requiring 300,000 man-hours of skilled labor per unit, American engineers deliberately built a sufficient, adequate weapon, requiring only 10,000 man-hours per unit, consciously accepting individual technical inferiority and tactical disadvantage in exchange for numerical superiority, so overwhelming that mathematics replaced tactics as the decisive campaign factor. That industrial capacity determined outcomes more than battlefield performance. The Sherman M4A1's technical specifications tell a clear story of deliberate, calculated design choices, consistently prioritizing production efficiency and operational sustainability over battlefield dominance and tactical superiority. Weight: 30 metric tons, exactly one-half the Tiger's massive 57-ton bulk, light enough to safely cross the countless European bridges that would catastrophically collapse under Tiger weight and force lengthy detours, easily transportable on standard European railroad cars without requiring any specialized loading equipment or reinforced rail lines. Readily loaded onto Liberty-class cargo ships in large numbers for efficient Atlantic transport to European and Pacific theaters. Front armor: glacis plates 51 millimeters thick, entirely sufficient to stop most German anti-tank rounds at medium combat ranges, but admittedly vulnerable to the Tiger's devastating 88mm gun at virtually any combat distance where visual acquisition was possible. Imprisonment: the 70 Ament, the 75mm M3 gun, completely adequate against German Panzer IV medium tanks and most battlefield targets, but genuinely unable to penetrate Tiger frontal armor except at ranges so close that the Sherman itself would certainly be destroyed first. Engine: Continental R975 air-cooled radial engine, producing 400 horsepower, directly adapted from proven aircraft applications, outstandingly reliable in field service, and easily maintainable using standard tools available to any reasonably competent mechanic, without requiring specialized training or equipment. Suspension: vertical volute spring system, remarkably simple to manufacture using standard industrial processes and extraordinarily easy to repair under actual field conditions using basic tools. Transmission: straightforward 5-speed manual design, mechanically uncomplicated and exceptionally durable under combat stress. Every single design choice, every engineering decision, every component selection, deliberately emphasized production speed and manufacturing efficiency, maintenance simplicity, and field repairability, parts interchangeability across variants, and crew survivability over individual combat superiority and tactical dominance. American engineers understood with absolute clarity what their German counterparts stubbornly refused to acknowledge. Modern industrial warfare would inevitably be won by the nation that could produce adequate weapons demonstrably faster than the enemy could possibly destroy them. Decidedly not by the nation that produced individually superior weapons in quantities far too insufficient to matter strategically. The Sherman wasn't designed or intended to fight tigers in fair one-on-one duels on equal terms. It was specifically designed to ensure that for every single tiger that German industry managed to produce, American factories would efficiently field 36 Shermans, consciously accepting that even if tigers somehow achieved consistent 5-to-1 or even 10-to-1 kill ratios in combat, the overwhelming mathematical advantage would remain decisively, permanently American. This fundamental production philosophy extended systematically to every single aspect of Sherman design and manufacturing. The tank used modern, all-welded hull construction instead of the simpler bolted armor assembly that made German production somewhat easier, but significantly reduced structural integrity and battlefield survivability. Welding absolutely required more skilled workers and more rigorous quality control procedures than simple bolting. But the technique produced measurably lighter tank hulls with dramatically superior structural strength and better armor protection for the same weight. The suspension system used simple, reliable coil springs instead of the Tiger's brilliantly engineered but extraordinarily complex overlapping road wheel design, consciously sacrificing some cross-country mobility performance in exchange for absolutely massive gains in maintenance simplicity, repair speed under field conditions, and overall production efficiency. The Continental radial engine design had been thoroughly perfected for demanding aircraft applications over many years, which meant that replacement engines existed in massive abundance and that mechanics throughout American military service already intimately understood maintenance procedures without requiring specialized Tiger-specific training. Even the Sherman's most obvious and frequently criticized weaknesses reflected these same deliberate design choices. Thinner armor meant dramatically faster production and significantly lighter weight, consciously accepting increased battlefield vulnerability in direct exchange for overwhelming numerical advantage and superior strategic mobility. The Detroit Tank Arsenal, purpose-built specifically for large-scale Sherman production using proven automobile manufacturing techniques, represented American industrial capacity operating at maximum peacetime to wartime conversion efficiency. Chrysler Corporation designed and directly managed the entire facility, systematically applying the automobile mass production techniques that Henry Ford had pioneered decades earlier to tank manufacturing on a scale that German engineers would genuinely consider physically impossible, even after seeing photographic evidence. The main assembly building itself covered 1,460,000 square feet of manufacturing space, roughly 33 acres of continuous production floor under a single massive roof structure, so extraordinarily large that 4 standard American football fields could comfortably fit inside the building, with substantial room remaining for additional equipment and workspace. The primary production line ran along the building's entire length, with raw steel plates and components entering at one end and fully completed, tested, painted Sherman tanks rolling out the opposite end after passing through exactly 127 precisely choreographed production stations, each performing specific manufacturing operations with mechanical efficiency. Each numbered station performed highly specific tasks that workers repeated thousands of times: cutting armor plate to precise specifications, hydraulically shaping hull components using specialized dies, expertly welding assemblies using techniques that ensured structural integrity, carefully installing engines and complex transmissions, precisely mounting main guns and delicate optical equipment, thoroughly applying protective paint and comprehensive weatherproofing that would protect the tanks during Atlantic crossings. Individual workers specialize completely in particular operations assigned to their specific stations, becoming extraordinarily efficient through continuous repetition of identical tasks, applying exactly the same principle that Henry Ford had brilliantly used for Model T automobile production decades earlier, now dramatically scaled up to 30-ton armored fighting vehicles instead of 1-ton passenger cars. The result of this systematic efficiency exceeded even optimistic projections. By December 1942, less than 1 year after beginning full production, Detroit Tank Arsenal was successfully producing 896 complete Sherman tanks monthly, more than double the entire monthly Tiger production total that Germany would achieve even at its absolute maximum efficiency peak after 2 full years of experience and continuous optimization efforts. But Detroit Tank Arsenal represented merely one of 11 major American factories simultaneously producing Sherman tanks using similar mass production techniques across the country. Chrysler's second tank arsenal facility in Warren, Michigan, efficiently produced 730 additional Shermans monthly using nearly identical production methods. Fisher Tank Division, a General Motors subsidiary, consistently manufactured 385 Shermans monthly. Federal Machine and Welder Company in Warren, Ohio, reliably contributed 285 tanks monthly. Lima Locomotive Works in Ohio systematically added 275 Shermans to monthly production totals. Pacific Car and Foundry Company in Washington State contributed 190 tanks monthly, despite being located thousands of miles from eastern industrial centers. Baldwin Locomotive Works in Pennsylvania manufactured 145 Shermans monthly, alongside locomotive production. Pullman Standard Car Company in Illinois contributed 385 monthly tanks. American Locomotive Company, Pressed Steel Car Company, and even Montreal Locomotive Works in Canada all contributed hundreds of additional Shermans to combined monthly production totals. Combined American and Canadian Sherman production reached well over 2,000 complete tanks monthly by mid-1943, a staggering figure that exceeded Germany's entire annual Tiger production during the tank's best year. This wasn't fortunate accident or temporary wartime advantage destined to disappear. This represented a fundamental, unbridgeable difference in underlying industrial philosophy and manufacturing capability that no amount of German effort could overcome. American factories had been deliberately designed from the very beginning, specifically for true mass production, extensively using interchangeable parts manufactured to standard specifications, completely standardized components that fit any vehicle of the same model, and proven assembly line efficiency techniques perfected over decades of automobile manufacturing experience. German factories retained substantial elements of traditional craft production approaches, with highly skilled workers still hand-fitting many components to individual vehicles, with individual tanks receiving considerable artisanal attention that ensured absolute maximum quality but guaranteed minimum quantity output. Sluggish. The American approach meant that virtually any factory with adequate floor space and basic metalworking equipment could potentially produce Sherman components after relatively brief conversion. That damaged tanks could be rapidly repaired in field workshops using interchangeable parts cannibalized from any other Sherman, regardless of which factory produced it. That total production could be widely distributed across the entire continent, making it essentially impossible for enemy strategic bombing to significantly impact aggregate national output, regardless of damage to individual facilities. The German approach meant that Tiger production remained concentrated in a very few highly specialized facilities, possessing unique equipment and expertise. That strategic bombing raids could severely devastate total production by damaging or destroying a single critical factory. That chronic part scarcity meant that badly damaged but repairable Tigers were frequently cannibalized to provide spare parts to keep fewer tanks operational rather than properly repairing all damaged vehicles. December 1942, German Military Intelligence Headquarters, Berlin. Major Heinrich Bauer methodically spreads reconnaissance photographs and captured intelligence documents across his desk in careful arrangement. his hands shaking slightly with suppressed anxiety as he meticulously recalculates the numbers for the third time, desperately hoping he has made a fundamental mathematical error. He hasn't. The black and white aerial reconnaissance photographs clearly show the Detroit tank arsenal, an industrial facility so unimaginably large that 4 American football fields could easily fit inside, with substantial room remaining. Captured intelligence reports and carefully analyzed documents indicate with disturbing consistency that this single factory alone produces 896 Sherman tanks every single month. 896 complete tanks from one factory, from one building. Bauer compares this incomprehensible American monthly production figure to Germany's entire Tiger output during the same December 1942 reporting period. 34 complete tanks from Germany's total combined industrial capacity. The simple ratio makes him feel physically ill, a visceral reaction to mathematical reality that contradicts everything German propaganda claims about American industrial weakness. But the intelligence reports continue relentlessly, each new page adding to the nightmarish picture. Chrysler's second tank arsenal facility, 730 Shermans produced monthly. Federal Machine and Welder Company, 285 Shermans monthly. Lima Locomotive Works, 275 Shermans monthly. The Americans have successfully converted 11 major factories to Sherman production, plus dozens of smaller facilities producing components, spare parts, specialized variants. Bauer carefully calculates the combined total production. Over 3,000 complete tanks monthly. 3,000 every single month, without fail. Germany's entire 1942 Tiger production totaled exactly 420 complete tanks for the entire year, averaging just 35 monthly. The Americans are producing in one single month what Germany produces in an entire year of maximum effort. And the Americans are simultaneously producing thousands of combat aircraft, hundreds of warships, unlimited ammunition stocks, endless supplies while maintaining and even expanding civilian production of consumer goods. He carefully prepares a detailed report for his superior officer, already knowing it will be immediately dismissed but feeling compelled by professional duty and personal integrity to present the facts. The meeting proceeds exactly as Bauer grimly expected. Herr Oberst, intelligence reports from America clearly indicate they are producing over 3,000 tanks monthly. Our entire annual Tiger production would equal approximately what they build in just 2 weeks of routine production. His superior waves dismissively, without even reading the supporting documentation. The Americans always exaggerate their capabilities. They have always exaggerated. Their tanks are technically inferior to our Tigers. 1 Tiger equals 10 Shermans in combat. Your numbers must be fundamentally wrong. Bauer responds quietly, carefully controlling his frustration. Respectfully, sir, even if we generously assume 1 Tiger equals 10 Shermans in combat effectiveness, they are currently producing 90 Shermans for every single Tiger we manage to build. The basic mathematics are extremely unfavorable, regardless of individual combat performance. His superior's face visibly hardens. Major, you will immediately revise these intelligence reports to reflect more realistic assessments, not enemy propaganda designed to damage German morale. Germany's industrial capacity, combined with inherently superior German engineering, ensures ultimate victory. Dismissed immediately. Bauer leaves the office knowing that objective truth has become completely irrelevant when it contradicts political ideology and propaganda narratives. Germans will continue producing fewer tanks while sincerely believing that quality always overcomes quantity, right up until overwhelming American numbers finally make such beliefs strategically irrelevant. Normandy, France, July 1944. German tank crews report destroying multiple Sherman tanks daily in tactical engagements. Individual tactical victories steadily accumulate. Experienced German commanders achieve impressive kill ratios against American armor. But each morning, reconnaissance reports show American tank strength in their assigned sectors either unchanged or mysteriously increased despite verified kills. One highly experienced Tiger commander reports with obvious frustration. We definitely destroyed 8 enemy tanks yesterday in 3 separate engagements. This morning, reconnaissance counts 12 American tanks in the same sector. They somehow replace losses overnight faster than we can inflict them. Where do they all come from? Another veteran commander writes in his private diary, recovered after the war, "I am officially credited with destroying 18 enemy tanks this month. This should matter strategically. This should make measurable difference to campaign outcomes. But every single day, there are more enemy tanks than the day before. We kill 8, and 12 appear. We destroy 12, and 20 appear." This isn't warfare as we understood it, as we trained for it. This is something entirely different, something fundamentally new for which we have no doctrine, no training, no previous experience. We are destroying them consistently faster than they can advance into our defensive positions, yet their total numbers never diminish, never decrease, only grow larger. How can any army possibly fight an enemy who systematically replaces all losses faster than you can inflict them, who grows stronger as we grow weaker? The answer, though German commanders don't yet fully comprehend it even this late in the war, is simple and absolute. You don't successfully fight such an enemy. You can't. Basic mathematics don't care about tactical brilliance or individual courage or superior equipment quality. The production numbers tell a story that battlefield performance cannot change. Camp Polk, Louisiana, United States, 1943. American Sherman tank crews train extensively on actual operational tanks rather than mock-ups or training aids. Each 5-man crew receives their own assigned Sherman for 6 intensive weeks of realistic training. They fire hundreds of practice rounds of actual ammunition, far more than most German crews will fire in their entire combat careers. They learn detailed maintenance procedures on the actual equipment they will use in combat operations, rather than on simplified training versions. They practice intensive crew coordination drills until the complex sequence of loading, aiming, and firing becomes completely automatic, requiring no conscious thought. Average American training time: 400 hours of instruction on actual operational tanks, over 1,000 live practice rounds fired per crew under realistic conditions. Ammunition supplies are essentially unlimited for training purposes. Fuel supplies are unlimited. If a tank breaks during training exercises, mechanics immediately repair it, or a replacement tank arrives within hours. Crews become intimately familiar with their equipment's specific capabilities and known limitations through extensive hands-on experience. They know through direct instruction and realistic training that the Sherman is significantly outgunned by German Tigers and Panther tanks in direct combat. They are explicitly taught tactical approaches that compensate for individual technical inferiority. Attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Ruthlessly exploit superior numbers. Coordinate effectively with artillery and air support. Exploit the Sherman's superior mechanical reliability and better speed. They are taught to feel confidence not in impossible individual superiority, but rather in systematic, overwhelming combined arms advantage. They are taught that they will never fight alone, that American doctrine emphasizes total combined arms integration, that for every German tank they encounter, they will have 3 to 5 friendly Shermans, plus dedicated air support, plus artillery support, plus infantry support. They are taught operational confidence, not in thicker armor, but in absolute systematic advantage. Grafenwohr Training Area, Germany, 1943. German Tiger crews train primarily on crude wooden mock-ups rather than actual operational vehicles. Real Tigers are far too valuable, far too rare, far too difficult to replace to use extensively for routine training purposes. New Tiger crews receive perhaps 10 hours of actual hands-on training time on real operational Tigers before combat deployment. Practice ammunition is severely rationed due to chronic shortages. Each crew receives perhaps 50 total practice rounds, maybe fewer as the war progresses, and ammunition becomes increasingly scarce for training purposes. Many Tiger crews enter actual combat having never fired the massive main gun from a moving tank, never practiced crew coordination under realistic combat conditions with actual ammunition. They learn the Tiger's impressive theoretical capabilities primarily from technical manuals and classroom lectures, rather than hands-on experience. They are taught that the Tiger is superior to all Allied tanks, that German tactical excellence will always overcome numerical disadvantage, that individual skill matters far more than numbers. They are taught supreme confidence in their weapons' technical superiority, in their training's quality, in inherent German warrior spirit. What they are not taught, what they cannot learn from limited training, is that their opponents train 4 times longer on actual combat equipment with unlimited practice ammunition, that their tactical excellence will face statistical and industrial impossibility, that their individually superior weapon exists in numbers so microscopically small that probability mathematics favors any mediocre Allied crew over any exceptional German crew, simply because Allied crews are everywhere simultaneously, while German crews are nowhere in sufficient numbers. Tiger I mechanical complexity creates maintenance nightmares that German planners never anticipated. The 745 horsepower Maybach HL230 engine delivers impressive power, but proves extremely prone to frequent breakdowns, especially when pushed hard under actual combat conditions. The overlapping road wheel suspension design that distributes weight so beautifully, in theory, catastrophically freezes solid in Russian winter conditions when mud packs between the wheels and freezes overnight, completely immobilizing the entire 57-ton tank. The complex 8-speed gearbox proves extremely prone to failure under sustained combat stress. The final drive units were inadequately designed for the Tiger's actual 57-ton operational weight, frequently breaking under field conditions. Fuel consumption is absolutely catastrophic. 1.8 liters per kilometer on paved roads, over 4 liters per kilometer cross-country. Operational range, only 120 kilometers before mandatory refueling. German fuel production is systematically collapsing under relentless Allied strategic bombing campaigns. Tank commanders increasingly issue orders for crews to simply push immobilized Tigers off roads, rather than waste irreplaceable fuel attempting recovery operations. Spare parts are increasingly completely unavailable, as Allied bombing systematically destroys German factories and transportation networks. Experienced crews joke bitterly among themselves. For every single hour the Tiger actually runs, we spend 3 hours desperately repairing it. The joke becomes progressively less funny as the war continues, and spare parts disappear entirely from the logistics system. By late 1944, German tank formations routinely report operational readiness rates of only 30 to 40%. This means that of the total 1,347 Tigers produced, perhaps only 400 to 500 are actually operational and available for combat at any given time. The remaining Tigers sit broken down in maintenance areas, awaiting spare parts that will never arrive, being systematically cannibalized to keep other Tigers marginally operational, or simply abandoned for complete lack of fuel. The Sherman, by stark contrast, consistently maintains operational readiness rates of 85 to 90% throughout the war. The proven Continental R975 radial engine, thoroughly perfected through years of demanding aircraft use, proves outstandingly reliable. The simple vertical volute spring suspension is extraordinarily easy to repair under field conditions, using only basic tools. Parts are completely standardized across all variants. American logistics systems efficiently ensure continuous spare parts availability at forward maintenance facilities. Field maintenance is readily possible without any specialized equipment or factory support. American crews routinely report, "The Sherman might not be the absolute best tank in individual combat, but it's always running, always available, always ready to fight." This reliability difference dramatically multiplies the existing production disparity into an even more overwhelming operational advantage. Germany's 1,347 total Tigers produced means perhaps 500 operational simultaneously at absolute best, probably significantly fewer. America's 49,234 total Shermans produced means over 40,000 operational simultaneously at any given moment throughout the war. The operational disparity isn't merely the already overwhelming production ratio of 36 to 1. The actual battlefield disparity is approximately 80 operational Shermans to 1 operational Tiger, or even higher when accounting for fuel shortages and parts scarcity. Normandy, August 1944. Panzer-Lehr Division reports destroying 42 American Sherman tanks in just 3 days of intense fighting, a significant tactical triumph that should weaken American strength. Intelligence officers report with confusion that American tank strength in the contested sector remains completely unchanged despite verified kills. Within exactly 48 hours of the battle's conclusion, 45 replacement Sherman tanks arrived directly from depot ships at Normandy beaches and moved forward to replace all losses. The division commander writes in his private diary with obvious frustration, "We are destroying them consistently faster than they can possibly advance into our defensive positions, yet their total numbers never diminish, never decrease. This is not warfare as we understood it, studied it, trained for it. This is industrial production, directly visiting systematic violence upon us. We cannot fight factories with tanks." Michael Wittmann, Northern France, August 1944. Wittmann has achieved extraordinary, legendary status throughout Germany, and even among Allied forces who respect his tactical brilliance. His personal confirmed kill count exceeds 138 tanks destroyed, more enemy armor than entire panzer companies typically destroy. Yet he writes privately to a fellow officer with obvious weariness, "I have completely stopped counting my individual victories. The numbers have become strategically meaningless, psychologically crushing. Yesterday, I successfully destroyed 6 Shermans in combat. Today, I faced 9 in the same area. Tomorrow, there will inevitably be 12, then 15, then 20. They come endlessly forward like ocean waves against a rocky shore, and even the strongest rock eventually erodes under constant pressure. We are drowning in American steel." August 8, 1944. Michael Wittmann, Germany's greatest tank ace with 138 confirmed kills, dies when his Tiger tank is catastrophically destroyed by Allied armor during heavy fighting near Caen. The exact circumstances remain historically disputed even today. Perhaps a British Sherman Firefly with its excellent 17-pounder gun. Perhaps a Canadian tank. Perhaps multiple simultaneous hits from several tanks. What remains completely undisputed by any historian: Wittmann destroyed 138 enemy tanks during his entire distinguished combat career, spanning multiple years. American factories produced exactly 138 replacement Sherman tanks in approximately 48 hours of completely routine production. His entire career's remarkable achievements, everything he accomplished through supreme skill, extraordinary courage, and tactical brilliance, equaled just 2 normal days of Detroit tank arsenal production. Less than 1% of 1 month's American output. Expelled. This is the final, mathematically unavoidable truth of modern industrial warfare that no tactical brilliance can overcome. Klaus Richter, examining final factory production reports in late 1944, makes his final devastating calculation. From April 1942 through August 1944, German industry produced 1,347 Tiger I tanks total. This represented our absolute maximum industrial achievement possible, consuming resources desperately needed elsewhere throughout the war economy, straining our capacity to breaking point. During exactly the same 28-month period, American industry casually produced approximately 42,000 Sherman tanks, while simultaneously producing 18,000 combat aircraft, 5,000 naval vessels of all types, and virtually unlimited ammunition stocks and supplies. We built a genuinely perfect weapon, the finest tank ever designed by any nation. They built a sufficient, adequate weapon in numbers that made perfection completely irrelevant to strategic outcomes. We brought supreme craftsmanship to an industrial competition. They brought assembly lines. We brought quality to a quantity contest. They brought factories. We brought excellence to a production race. They brought Detroit. We lost not because our tanks were inferior in combat. The Tiger was demonstrably superior in every individual performance metric, but because modern warfare is fundamentally won in factories, not in combat. Won by logistics, not tactics. Won by production capacity, not battlefield brilliance. General Heinz Guderian, Inspector General of German Armored Troops, reportedly stated in late 1944 with obvious bitterness after reviewing production statistics. The Tiger is a magnificent tank, truly magnificent, the finest armored vehicle ever created. Every single Tiger we produce is an engineering masterpiece that represents the peak of German technical achievement. But the enemy produces 20 adequate tanks for our one masterpiece, and their tanks are good enough for the job required. This is the reality of modern industrial warfare that we fail to understand. Individual excellence is beautiful and impressive and meaningless. Adequacy, multiplied by overwhelming numbers, is absolutely, inevitably, decisive. January 1945. Germany's industrial capacity collapses completely under sustained Allied strategic bombing that has systematically destroyed transportation networks, power generation, raw material supplies. Tiger production ceases entirely and permanently. Sherman production continues at over 1,500 tanks monthly, without interruption, without difficulty. German tank crews fight desperately with equipment that cannot possibly be replaced, cannot be properly repaired, cannot be adequately refueled as fuel supplies vanish. American tank crews advance with absolute confidence that any losses will be immediately replaced within days, any damage quickly repaired by mobile maintenance units, any supplies needed promptly delivered by the most sophisticated logistics system ever created. The war isn't over yet. Fighting continues for months, but the mathematics made the final outcome completely inevitable many months earlier, perhaps years earlier. Germany designed and produced the war's most feared, most respected, most capable tank. The Tiger I was genuinely, measurably superior to the Sherman in armor protection, in firepower, in psychological impact on enemy soldiers who faced it, in individual combat performance. In direct combat encounters, Tigers regularly destroyed multiple Shermans while sustaining minimal damage themselves. Tiger crews achieved kill ratios of 5-1, 10-1, sometimes higher, ratios that should have ensured German victory, according to every traditional military doctrine developed over centuries. Yet Germany lost the tank war catastrophically, overwhelmingly, decisively, mathematically, without any possibility of alternative outcome, regardless of tactical performance or individual courage. They proved conclusively that superior individual weapons are strategically meaningless when the enemy produces adequate weapons in quantities that make individual superiority completely irrelevant. They demonstrated beyond any doubt that you cannot win modern industrial warfare with artisanal production methods, regardless of craftsmanship quality or engineering brilliance. They brought a perfect masterpiece to a production competition and wondered why they lost, when basic mathematics made the outcome absolutely inevitable from the very beginning. The Sherman didn't defeat the Tiger through superior performance in fair battlefield combat. Detroit's assembly lines defeated Germany's entire industrial capacity, and that fundamental production disparity made every single battlefield encounter's outcome strategically predetermined, regardless of tactical brilliance, individual courage, or superior equipment quality. They measured courage and tactical excellence and individual victories. Americans measured production rates and replacement times and monthly factory output. Germans counted individual tank kills with pride. Americans counted monthly production numbers with satisfaction. One side brought master craftsmen to an industrial revolution. The other side brought the factories themselves. And in modern warfare, factories always win. Always. The Tiger was a masterpiece. The Sherman was sufficient. Sufficiency in overwhelming quantity defeated masterpiece in insufficient quantity. This is the mathematics of modern war, where adequacy multiplied by abundance defeats perfection multiplied by scarcity, where logistics matters more than tactics, where factory capacity determines outcomes more than battlefield performance. Germany learned this lesson too late. The world never forgot it.